Can COSATU confidently say its marches across the country were a success? To what extent do corruption and state capture impact the country's taxpayers? How is COSATU assisting workers at companies owned by the Gupta family? And what is the Labour Federation doing to help prevent imminent job losses in the mining sector? Do you know what time it is? You got it right, it's question time. Good afternoon. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Simpiwe Ngongwana, standing in for Mpotsedu. Now, thousands of Congress of South African trade union members marched across the country today, and the protest action was really about organized under the banner of fighting corruption, state capture and retrenchments. The South African Communist Party and the Gauteng tripartite alliance leadership supported the industrial action, and there was a large turnout in Johannesburg, the Western Cape and Durban, where COSATU President Sdumo Dlamini led the proceedings. Meanwhile, the National Union of Mineworkers says it wants to save 8,500 jobs at the Gupta-owned company Oakbay Resources. The company owned, or rather the Gupta-owned company is going through a rough patch after it lost its court bid to stop the Bank of Baroda from closing its bank accounts earlier this month. The General Secretary of the Federation of Trade Unions, Zwelinzima, Vavi, says COSATU is using the strike to tilt the balance of power in the ANC. And for its part, NUMSA says today's march is all about a call by COSATU for President Jacob Zuma to step down. We are live, therefore you can give us a call and air your views on the following numbers on your screens right now. It's 089 110 4210, or the international number is +27 89 110 4210, or tweet us your comments. Our Twitter handle is @QuestionTime24. All right, my guest today are Sdumo Dlamini, the president of the Congress of South African Trade Unions at our Durban studios, and Thandeka Qubule, who is the economics editor for SABC. A very good afternoon to you too. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Sdumo, I'm going to start with you. How has the marches been today?
Yes, good evening, Simpiwe, and thanks very much for having us. And good evening to Sis Thandeka Qubule. Today was indeed a COSATU day. We are quite happy and satisfied about the turnout that we had. Thousands of our members and supporters and associate organizations joined the marches the country over today. We are happy with the turnout, but we are also happy that we were able to send through a very clear, strong message that state capture has got to be tackled in our country, that corruption is not something to tolerate in South Africa, but also that we must fight for job creation and fight against labor brokers, against the casualization at the workplace, and also deal with the scourge of poverty that is inflicting the country, driving a radical socio-economic program by changing the policies that are guiding our country at the moment. So we are happy. We thank the workers that have indeed supported the call for the Federation. We want to say that we would not have been having this day a successful day if workers did not heed our call against difficulties that there was no transport in many areas, against difficulties that the weather in some areas would have not been very helpful. We thank COSATU. Everybody understands the message that the Federation COSATU is alive and can stand up for the workers and raise the issues that we were raising today.
Now, Sdumo, you say that you are quite happy with the turnout, but COSATU initially targeted 100,000 marchers to take part in today's marches, but that was rather a far cry from that. Is it correct to say that the strike action was a mere damp squib?
It would be an unfair assessment. I heard that media houses have given out figures of the strike. We can look to the police, what they say about the numbers. But what I can tell you, I was leading a march here in Durban where we had thousands of workers heeding the call of the Federation. I put the figure at about 15,000 here in Durban today, which was a very significant turnout. Johannesburg was even far higher than that. But I'm not going to be in any competition about people who are brandishing different figures. We know that today South Africa will be telling a story. COSATU, the Federation of the Workers in this country, took to the streets to raise the plight of their members and workers in general against labor brokers, against the e-tolls, against the starvation wages that workers are subjected to on a daily basis, the exploitation in the farm areas, but also to say our state president, President Zuma, must take immediate steps to implement the recommendation of the public protector around the setting up of a judicial commission of inquiry to go to the root cause of what we are experiencing right now and even go deeper beyond what the public protector had said by stretching the period to 1994 and to the role of the private sector in the state capture. We want to know what was happening at Treasury. What is this thing called IFMS? What does it mean? We want to understand what
let's leave it there for now and take our first caller. And Tandek, I'm going to bring you into this, but first let's take our first caller. And a reminder that you can call us and air your views. The number is 089-110-42110. We've got the first caller on the line. Emmanuel from Kwaggafontein. A very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Good day. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I think the president should step down because we are unemployed. I am presently unemployed and I'm the full member of the ANC. I wrote to him that I want a job to be a minister, but he didn't took me. Now, I think the president has done our country not good. So I think he should step down and we should find another better person because I am unemployed presently and I'm the member of the ANC and I wrote to him, but he didn't employ me.
All right, thank you so much for your call. Now, Tandega, let me bring you into this. Now, COSATU says they are striking against corruption and state capture as opposed to labor issues. Do you think they are barking at the wrong tree?
Well, they're actually merging labor floor issues with broader issues affecting workers throughout. And whatever you may say, today was a reflection of the grave and the great socio-economic deficit and the social justice deficit in our country. And it spilled over in 13 different cities and towns across 9 provinces. That is significant. It reminded me of the days of the rolling mass action against gear and neoliberal policies in the early days of our democracy, which Mr. Dlamini would remember so well. Now that these policies have had almost 2 decades, almost going into 2.5 decades, we are seeing the systematic whittling down of the capacity of the state, the breakdown of social cohesion, the exacerbation of situations of economic injustice and socio-economic deprivation. Poverty is rising, unemployment is rising and devastating both businesses, and real gross earnings from businesses are declining. So when both businesses and labor are losing people and shedding people, they are significantly weakened.
I'm actually glad you touched on the issue of the neoliberal policies, Tandeka, which now brings me to my next question. Are we seeing a shift in the dynamics of organized labor today?
No, we are seeing that what they have been warning about has come to being. What they warned about in the early 1990s and the mid-1990s is now, we are now reaping the fruits. This is the bitter harvest of economic management and economic policy choices.
Sure. All right. We've got Peggy on the line from Kwaggafontein. A very good afternoon to you, Peggy.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? What's on your mind, sir?
Yes. The problem is, why did COSATU explain the mind of the people? Because COSATU is not tackling the real issue that is facing the people, which is unemployment, which is a labor Instead, they are using people as pawn for political gain. And also, why did COSATU is not taking the issue of corruption through treasurer and also through South African Airways? They are just only concerned about Zuma and Ramaphosa positions only. Thank you.
All right, Peggy, thank you so much for your call. Now, Zdumo, I'm sure you've heard Peggy there. He's basically saying that COSATU is barking at the wrong tree. Instead of addressing such pertinent issues as the rate of unemployment in the country, the BIS are focusing on political issues which are not your primary mandate. How do you respond to that?
Sir, I've been talking to the listeners just now and highlighted that we're raising the plight of the workers against the labor brokers, against the exploitation at the workplace, the casualization, the national minimum wage that we want, the fight against corruption. These issues are impacting on the workers. And I think I need to state it very clearly that even the whole issue of state capture does have a direct impact on the workers because when that happens, it's workers who are therefore ignored on their need. But what I can tell you today, Simpwe, is that workers, those workers who understood the call of the Federation COSATU, came out in large numbers and supported the strike action that was happening today. I fully agree with Sister Ndega to the fact that what is happening now is what we would have been warning against as the Federation, that if we follow neoliberal policies and hope to can transform the economy of South Africa, we must forget it doesn't happen that way. And that's the call we are making today, that we need to change course. The current form of the NDP with its labor market chapter and the economic chapter will not take us to this radical socio-economic transformation, which is why COSATU has called also for the review of the National Development Plan.
All right, let's leave it there for now. Let's take a short break. And remember that you can call us and air your views. Our number is 089-110-42110. Our lines are open right now. Question time, we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. Our guest today is Sdumo Dlamini, the president of the COSATU, and Thandeka Qubule, the economics editor, right here at the SABC. And we're talking about the COSATU strike, the national strike rather, which took place all over the country. Now, Sdumo, back to you in Durban. Your alleged proximity to President Jacob Zuma and the reports, of course, that you did not participate in preparations for today's strike march. Were you coerced into participating? Were you dragged into this?
So I can put it bluntly, that has been the cheap talk that has been created with the media. I've been participating in mobilizing for the strike and also in ensuring that everything is in place. I've been hard at work. I've never been on leave as the Federation President. I've never been on leave. Those things are things that are done by people who have their own agendas against myself as a person. I am not coerced into this campaign. I'm part and parcel of this campaign. I'm part and parcel of the decisions of the Federation and have pronounced myself quite very eloquently on the positions of the Federation. But people, because they have their own interests, they will keep on saying this thing that, no, look at his eyes as he say he supports Cyril Ramaphosa. His eyes are looking elsewhere, and then they conclude in their own way. I'm tired of that debate. It's a tired discussion. It's a dead discussion. COSATU is on its mission right now to ensure that we implement the decisions of the Federation.
You've always been saying that you do support COSATU's position on President Jacob Zuma, but do you personally think that Jacob Zuma should step down?
Why should it be a personal matter? It's an organizational issue. The organization takes a decision. Every leader in the organization is bound by that decision. And I really deter and ponder to hear why people want to draw out personalities. We're not dealing with personalities in PO here. We're dealing with organizational decision and expect every leader of those organizations who are leading to implement to the latter those decisions of the organization.
Okay, and say for argument's sake, yes, to say for argument's sake, President Zuma does indeed step down. What would change, if at all, for the working class in South Africa?
Well, COSATU believes that there will be a new leadership that will take the ANC forward, that will be able to take the alliance in a serious way and ensure that we are able to meet and unite and move forward in implementing progressive decisions that are supposed to be implemented.
All right, we've got TJ on the line from Limpopo. A very good afternoon to you, TJ. TJ, are you there? All right, unfortunately, we seem to have lost TJ. We'll certainly try to re-establish connection with him. Now, Thandeka, let's talk a bit more about COSATU having bled so many members. How vulnerable do you think COSATU is at this point?
Well, the union movement across the board, not just COSATU, but also SAFTU, the emergent SAFTU, as well as AMCU and FEDUSA are very vulnerable, because when the economy is in a recessionary climate and when the economy is shrinking and contracting, what happens is that businesses that hire people cannot sustain certain levels of labor. So they have to trim the labor force in order to survive. And when that happens and the factory gates close, and as the economy is deindustrializing rapidly in this country, what happens is that you have fewer workers at the points where you can organize them. They are not there on the factory floor, nor are they in other sectors where you can organize them. So all unions that seek to organize labor then begin to shed numbers. But this also happens to business. Businesses weaken, and they can no longer have bulky, scaleful businesses, especially in the labor-intensive industries.
All right. We've got Vincent from Mabopane on the line. Very good afternoon to you, Vincent. Vincent from Mabopane, good afternoon. All right, we seem to have lost Vincent again. Now, Sdumo, back to you in Durban. SAFTU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi says COSATU is using the national strike, to tilt the balance of power within the ANC. And on the other hand, NUMSA says if COSATU is indeed genuine about pulling the plug on corruption in the country, then COSATU should break away from the ANC. Now, of course, in a word, COSATU is being disingenuous.
Look, you should call them this evening and ask them to repeat what they said yesterday and this morning. I'm definitely sure if you ask them a question whether the COSATU marches were a success, they will run. They will not be able to respond, because it was a resounding success. But what we're saying as the Federation, we don't want to be detracted by those people. They have their unions or their federation to build. We have our COSATU to build and strengthen, and we want to focus ourselves on that, because some of those people were part and parcel of COSATU a few years back, and they now behave as if they were never part of the decisions that the Federation has taken before. So that is hypocrisy. COSATU is not going to be spending time really trying to listen to Zwelinzima Vavi, the former General Secretary of COSATU. When he is lonely and remembering and missing COSATU, he will want to spite at the Federation. We are steaming ahead, building the Federation, representing the interest of the workers of this country.
And speaking of workers, how is COSATU assisting workers at Gupta-owned companies whose bank accounts have been closed?
Yes, great question indeed. We are led by the National Union of the Mineworkers there, and indeed would support the call of the president of NUM. And COSATU says it cannot be that by the mistakes of the bosses, workers must then lose their jobs. So we are together with those workers that the country, we must do everything possible to ensure that those workers don't lose their jobs purely on the basis of the banks having to close their accounts. And we have actually said it exposes the challenge that we are facing. When banks or when the laws are made to decide to close the accounts of companies, they do not think about the interest of those workers. And COSATU is standing with those workers of Oakbay and ensuring that a solution must be found to sustain those jobs that are there.
All right, we've got another call from Durban. Very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. I know the workers have come out for a genuine cause, but Mr. Dlamini, did he come out for a genuine cause? Because generally we know he is a great buddy of Mr. Zuma. So is he sincere? We know the workers are sincere. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Mike. Now this brings me to our earlier question, Sdumo, that given your proximity to President Jacob Zuma, is this call genuine?
You know, Simpiwe, I've been schooled in the notion that say people who meet and discuss personalities of people have a lower level of thinking than those who meet and discuss issues. The issue I've confronted here at the moment is that things have gone wrong, and we're standing up to say, can we correct these things? I'm really, South Africa, please leave me alone now. I can't be answering one question. Yes, President Zuma, as president of the ANC and president of the Republic, has been and is having a close working relationship with the president of COSATU as president of COSATU. He is not my friend. He's not my father. We've been working together because he occupies the position in the ANC. I occupy a position in COSATU, which forces us to work together. Now, South Africans misinterpret that for friendship. All
right, we'll leave you there for now, Sdumo. Thandeka, I'm going to engage on this. Now, a business unit in South Africa says workers should strike on a no work, no pay basis. And of course, obviously, thousands of workers lost a day's wage today. So COSATU, but particularly, they didn't have the interests of the workers at the lower end of the barrel today, did they?
Who are you asking about, the employers or COSATU?
About the employers.
Well, many employers, organized particularly under the chamber, actually supported the strike. Remember, this was a legal strike.
Yeah.
And workers were allowed to go out there and voice their opinions about things on the factory floor and things that affect them, that are happening in this country, that affect workers directly.
But they lost a day's wage today.
Not many, because many companies actually indicated support. Remember, Simpiwe, that we were deployed across this economy today as the SABC. We were deployed because of our amazing reach throughout the country. And normally, when there is such victimization, we get calls to indicate that workers are being punished or mistreated. Not a single call there today.
All right, Thandeka, great chatting to you. And Sdumo Dlamini in our Durban studios, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it very much this afternoon. That was a big thank you to our guest today. And that was Question Time for today. And we appreciate you at home for watching and to our guest today. Till next time then, goodbye from Johannesburg.